If you thought The Way of Water was epic, wait until you hear the real story. From deleted scenes and Easter eggs to bizarre production secrets, here's everything you never knew about James Cameron's epic sequel.
Let's start with the most shocking of all. Before settling on the story of The Way of Water, James Cameron and his writers actually wrote an entirely different Avatar 2 script titled The High Ground. This 130-page script covered the events immediately after the first film. It included an RDA return attack on Pandora and an epic space battle, with Na'vi fighting humans in zero gravity. Cameron said it was a great read, with lots of cool action. However, he felt it lacked the unexpected element and the spiritual depth he wanted, so he scrapped it. Rather than throw it away completely, he turned The High Ground into a graphic novel series and published it in late 2022, helping to fill in the gaps between the first two films. This helps explain why The Way of Water feels so different from a typical sequel. Instead of picking up right after the first film's victory, Cameron jumps forward in time and shifts the focus to Jake's family and the oceans. By pivoting, he opens up new territory, the reef clans, a whole ocean culture, and the emotional stakes of watching the kids grow up. For fans who still want that missing chapter, the graphic novel series explores the path not taken, making this a rare case where a scrapped blockbuster storyline officially lives in another medium. And for Way of Water fans, it's fun to know how radically different the movie could have been. Early concepts even toyed with Neytiri heading into space. Now, that's something we will keep our fingers crossed for. Date Night, Extended Cut. This first scene shows a rare quiet moment between Jake and Neytiri. The two enjoy a peaceful ride on their Ikran under a clear evening sky. No kids around, just them having fun together. It's a simple but sweet reminder that they still enjoy each other's company despite their busy lives. The next moment is exclusive to the extended cut. They land on one of the floating mountains and they start playfully teasing each other. Jake pulls Neytiri's tail and playfully chases her. When their eyes meet and their hands touch, they share a passionate kiss. Everything feels lighthearted and romantic. We cut to them cuddling, also seen in the theatrical cut, until they notice a new light in the sky. Way of Water doesn't often show this side of the Sully couple. Moments like this prove that they still care deeply for each other and are attracted to each other. When no one's watching, they still act like the same couple who fell in love years ago. Next, a blink and you'll miss it cameo. As 𝐕𝐸𝐽𝐻's pre-recorded message plays to explain the memory transfer process, corporate boss Parker Selfridge briefly appears in the background of the footage. He interjects to correct 𝐏𝐻 on a detail, true to the character we remember. This brief cameo reminds us of the villain behind the villain, the corporate administrator of the RDA's Pandora operations, who was sidelined by the RDA's more gung-ho military elements. Though Selfridge isn't part of the main story, his presence in archival video maintains continuity. It's a rewarding Easter egg for attentive viewers and underscores that the same profit-driven bureaucracy still looms behind the military force on Pandora. Next, 𝐏𝐻 shows us another secret. You're still not in Kansas. Early in the film, 𝐏𝐻 2.0 repeats his own famous line from the first Avatar, "You are not in Kansas anymore." It's delivered to the same group of recon Marines as they prepare to re-enter Pandora. This line, originally a Wizard of Oz reference and used to toughen up new recruits, is resurrected almost verbatim. It's a cheeky continuity nod for fans, emphasizing how little 𝐏𝐻's gung-ho attitude has changed even if the context is ironic. It's also one of many self-referential moments that tie the sequel to the original film. Crashed Samson Tiltrotor, Extended Cut. Another extended scene sees Lo'ak, Kiri, Took, and Spider sneak into an area of the jungle their parents told them not to visit. As seen in the original, they come across an old Samson helicopter from the 2154 battle, tangled in tree vines. What comes next is new. Lo'ak, Spider, and Took move closer to the helicopter to see what is inside. Lo'ak climbs in and discovers two skeletons. One of them still has a Na'vi arrow lodged in its chest. Lo'ak fiddles with the arrow and jokes about it, his humor showing that the death of an RDA helicopter pilot does not unsettle him. It is clear from the difference between his and Spider's mood that human death has a different impact on Spider. Lo'ak is happy to joke about it while Spider watches on, deep in thought for one of his own kind that has died. And Took just says, "gross," before the scene cuts back to Kiri walking through the forest in wonder. This reminds us of the violent past between humans and the Na'vi. 𝐏𝐻's Hamlet moment. In the first film, we see Colonel Miles 𝐏𝐻 killed in action, courtesy of Neytiri's arrows. However, since his consciousness was backed up, he's able to return as a recombinant in the sequel. When awakened in his new Na'vi body, he and his team immediately resume their mission to take down Jake. While searching the 𝐏𝐚𝐳𝐲 rainforest, he stumbles upon the battlefield where he died. He finds his own skeleton and pointedly picks up the skull. In an overt nod to Shakespeare's Hamlet, he holds it aloft, like Hamlet mourning Yorick, before crushing it to dust. Hamlet is struck by the fragility of human life and the cruelty of fate. 𝐾𝐻, on the other hand, is a big blue alien on a revenge mission. Goodbye, Moat. The first fully deleted scene takes place just before Jake and Neytiri leave their clan's temporary home in the Hallelujah Mountains. As they prepare to leave for the Reef region, Loak hands a bow to Neytiri, showing that he understands both the weight of what they're about to do, as well as what this bow means to his mother. The bow is crucial to the Avatar story. Not only does it break later in the film when the final battle is in full swing, but this is the bow that we see Loak retrieve from the wreckage of the Sea Dragon in the trailer for Fire and Ash. Then, as the kids get secured into their Ikran before the journey, we hear crying as Neytiri and Moat prepare for an emotional goodbye. They share a tight embrace, and Neytiri breaks down in her mother's arms while Moat comforts her. Tuk pleads with her grandmother to come along, but Moat gently explains that she must stay behind as the people still need their tzahik. Tuk hugs Moat one last time, unable to let go easily. Sigourney Weaver becomes a teen again. Despite being in her 70s, Sigourney Weaver convincingly portrays a 14-year-old Na'vi girl, Kiri. Remarkably, her voice for Kiri was not digitally altered. It's her own, achieved through pure acting technique. To prepare, Weaver spent time with actual teenagers, auditing high school classes incognito to observe how Gen Z kids talk, move, and slouch. She even underwent the same rigorous physical training as the younger cast, including combat and freediving, reportedly holding her breath for over 6 minutes in training. Her transformation underscores the film's theme of rebirth in a meta way. Which brings us to Kiri as Pandora's Messiah. Kiri is introduced as Grace Augustine's daughter, born mysteriously from Grace's inert avatar, with no known father. Throughout the film, Kiri displays an extraordinary connection to Eywa and Pandora's life forms. She communes with the dead through Eywa and even saves her family by guiding glowing fish to light their escape path. These elements, a virgin birth, miraculous powers, communion with the planet's deity, are reminiscent of religious figures like Jesus Christ, and it's strongly suggested that she may even be Eywa incarnate. This adds depth to the saga's spiritual side and hints at Kiri's critical role in Pandora's future. Will she unite Na'vi and redeem humans in the future? What do you think about this? Let us know down below in the comments. Spider mocks the 𝐕𝐝𝐻𝐾𝐚s. Deleted scene. Spider is guiding 𝐾𝐻's squad through the forest with ease. He moves quickly and confidently, while the squad struggles to keep up. Along the way, he can't help but tease them with lines like, "Come on, keep up, ladies. How does my ass look?" and "All day long, boys." He clearly enjoys watching them struggle. At one point, one of the soldiers slips off a branch and nearly falls. Spider glances back, saying, "Ooh, that was harsh," before darting ahead. Later, another recombinant miscalculates a vine swing and falls hard. Spider just chuckles a quick "oops," while 𝐾𝐻 shouts for the soldier to get back up and move. The director's note explains, "We omitted this scene as we were concerned the sequence made it look like Spider was helping the 𝐕𝐝𝐻𝐾oms instead of mocking and punishing them." This all highlights Spider's impressive agility and speed. Despite being human, Spider moves through the forest like a Na'vi, while the 𝐕𝐝𝐻𝐾oms, still unfamiliar with their avatar bodies, struggle to match his pace. Spider has adapted to the Na'vi way of life. And remember, if you love uncovering details like this, stay tuned to the channel by subscribing so you don't miss the next breakdown. We will have plenty more like this coming soon. The history within tribes. The 𝐸𝐻𝐾𝐼𝐻 clan, led by Tonowari and Ronal, are hesitant to accept the forest-born Sully family. Over time, these groups overcome differences and unite, but not without early friction. These fears hint at a longer, more complicated history of clan conflicts and tensions. Avatar has always drawn from the history of colonization. Here, the film nods to how Native American tribes and other indigenous groups sometimes struggle to unify against a common invader due to long-standing internal conflicts. By showing clans initially at odds, Cameron avoids an overly romanticized all-Na'vi instantly band together trope and instead adds nuance. Unity is possible, but it must be earned by overcoming the past and prejudices. Acknowledging this reality makes the eventual alliance between Forest and Reef Na'vi all the more satisfying. Neytiri rides an elu. Deleted scene. We enter this deleted scene just after seeing Jake trying to tame the 𝐸𝐻𝐾oINA sea creatures. The deleted scene shows Neytiri in her own 𝐿u struggles under 𝐿𝐼𝐼's guidance. She is not finding it easy. 𝐿𝐼 reminds her that the 𝐿u doesn't fly, even though Neytiri keeps trying to make it do so. Stubbornly, Neytiri insists that she knows what she's doing and gives it another try. But once again, she fails to control it, leaving 𝐿𝐼 looking unimpressed. The scene shows us more of Kate Winslet's 𝐿𝐼, and that even though Neytiri is a skilled warrior in the forest, she is struggling to learn new ways in their new home. Her pride is getting in the way of being taught. 𝐿𝐼𝐼 physiology. The reef-dwelling 𝐿𝐼𝐼 clan aren't just blue Na'vi with tattoos, they have distinct physical adaptations for ocean life. Their skin tone is a greenish aqua. They sport thicker, paddle-like tails and broader forearms with extra muscle and fin-like skin for swimming. Even their chests and lungs appear larger, indicating higher lung capacity. These traits evolved to help them swim fast and hold breath longer in the water. In contrast, Jake's family from the forest are leaner, with narrower tails built for climbing trees. The film visually contrasts these when the children compare their hands and tails. The depth of Pandora's world-building remains immense. The 𝐿𝐼𝐼 is not only believable as a culture distinct from the 𝐿𝐼𝐼𝐼, but it also feeds into the story with the Sully kids being labeled freaks for having 5 fingers and thinner tails. The physical differences emphasize that Pandora's peoples are diverse and have their own intraspecies biases, just like our own. Ardmore and 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 discuss Jake, extended cut. Colonel 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 is trying to persuade General Ardmore to support his mission to capture Jake. He asks her to give him ships and aircraft, and in exchange, he'll kill Jake. In the theatrical version, the scene cuts straight to the Sea Dragon and several aircraft departing the base. But in the extended cut, there's an interesting addition. Ardmore doesn't agree so easily. She tells 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 to give up, insisting that Jake is probably already dead. But 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 warns that Jake could be uniting the Na'vi sea clans to launch an attack against them. The thought of a large-scale uprising unsettles Ardmore. Eventually, she agrees to provide him with the Sea Dragon ship for 1 week only, and then the massive vessel departs the base, marking the beginning of 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽's pursuit. The 4-year delay that fooled an actress. The Way of Water endured an infamously long production and post-production, with principal filming wrapping back in 2018. The gap between production and release was so long that Edie Falco, who plays General Ardmore, was convinced the film had quietly flopped. On a talk show in late 2022, she recalled asking in disbelief, "It didn't? It hasn't come out yet?" This anecdote shows just how drawn out the Avatar process is, and how obsessive Cameron is about every detail of post-production. Falco's candid confession got laughs, but also sympathy. Cameron even called her after the story went viral, laughing it off in light of the film's massive success. Neytiri spearfishes, deleted scene. In this deleted scene, we get more of the two matriarchs together. Neytiri rides her 𝐿𝐼𝐼, gliding low over the water. Without hesitation, she dives in with a spear in hand and catches a fish in one clean move. Her 𝐿𝐼𝐼 follows her underwater, then picks her up. Together, they soar back into the sky. 𝐿𝐼𝐼 is monitoring from under the water. Then Neytiri looks down at 𝐿𝐼𝐼. Even though the scene isn't fully rendered yet and we can't clearly see her expression, the body language says enough. Neytiri proudly holds up her catch for 𝐿𝐼𝐼 to notice. She doesn't say a word, but her gesture says it all. Something like, "See? I can do it too, in my own way." Kate Winslet's 7-minute breath hold. Portraying 𝐿𝐼𝐼, a pregnant freediving clan leader, required Kate Winslet to endure extended underwater performance capture sessions. Winslet went above and beyond by training in freediving and even managed to hold her breath for an astonishing 7 minutes and 14 seconds in one training session, as verified by the crew. This surpassed Tom Cruise's training record of 6 minutes set during Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. In a video showing Winslet as she finally resurfaces, her hilarious first words are, "Am I dead?" followed by immediately asking how long she lasted. Even though the film likely didn't need that long a shot, Winslet embraced the challenge and set a Hollywood record. This piece of trivia illustrates the intense dedication of the cast and the film's commitment to authenticity. Rather than relying solely on CGI, actors actually performed underwater. Winslet's feat, in particular, became a bragging point for the production. An impressed James Cameron feigned surprise, joking that Kate is not competitive at all. It also neatly ties back to Titanic. Winslet, who famously endured freezing waters on Cameron's set in 1997, now conquered a new water challenge. Learning montage. Deleted scene. The scene begins with 𝐿oak successfully retrieving a seashell from the ocean. This part appears in the theatrical cut, but what follows is a deleted sequence not seen in the film. We see Tonowari teaching Neytiri and 𝐿oak how to weave leaves, part of building a home for the �\𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻. Tonowari reminds them to always cooperate as brothers to build not just a house, but also a village and a family together. Later that night, Jake and Neytiri walk side by side along the shoreline. In a calm voiceover, Jake says, "It's time to learn, time to heal," reflecting the family's effort to start anew at the reef. Then we get 𝐿oak and 𝐸𝐴 spending time together in the water. 𝐸𝐴 leads 𝐿oak into an air pocket inside an air bell, where she makes a soft whistling sound that echoes beautifully. Amused, 𝐿oak imitates her, and the two laugh together. 𝐿oak gently brushes 𝐸𝐴's hair out of her eyes, making her giggle in return. The young, almost couple continues swimming through the glowing underwater world, surrounded by colorful sea creatures. This sequence gives more depth to how the 𝐵𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻 are welcoming the Sully family into their way of life. It also gives more space to 𝐿oak and 𝐸𝐴's bond, showing their connection developing naturally. Definitely something to keep in mind as we get ready for Fire and Ash. Underwater sign language. It's no secret that an entirely new language was created for the Na'vi in the first film, but underwater they cannot speak. So whenever the 𝐵𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻 communicate underwater, they use their own sign language to communicate. That's right, another whole new language. Rather than just making up a few gestures on the fly, the filmmakers enlisted deaf actor and consultant C.J. Jones to create an entire Na'vi sign language known as NSL from scratch. Over 2 years, he developed around 150 unique signs to be used by the Reef clan, adapted for Na'vi anatomy and culture. The actors even learned this language for their underwater scenes, greatly adding to the authenticity. Taonui Village, extended cut. In the longest and most shocking so far of the extended scenes, 𝐿oak and the 𝐕𝐝𝐻 arrive at the Taonui village searching for any sign of Jake. They ransack the area and take the villagers hostage. In the extended cut, we see more of the soldiers attacking the villagers while the clan's leader and 𝐶𝐸𝐻 plead for peace. With Spider acting as an interpreter, 𝐿oak demands to know if Jake is hiding there. The leader calmly explains that they have no connection to him. In the extended cut, one of the soldiers threatens the 𝐶𝐸𝐻 with a rifle. 𝐿oak doesn't believe the leader. In the theatrical version, Spider turns to 𝐿oak and simply says, "They don't know anything." But in the extended cut, he adds, "They've never seen him." Frustrated, 𝐿oak orders Waynfleet to shoot an elu nearby. Waynfleet obeys. In the theatrical version, he fires 5 shots. But in the extended cut, he shoots 9 times. A small but crucial difference. Then the other men begin to taser the villagers. However, they then taser the leader, which is not included in the theatrical version. The leader proceeds to beg the men not to touch his wife, and this is also fresh footage. After Spider refuses to make threats on his behalf, 𝐿oak shows the leader a picture of Neytiri, asking if he recognizes her. Still, the leader has no idea of who she is. 𝐿oak then orders one of his men to hit the leader. The soldiers continue beating the Na'vi as the leader tells his people to be calm, and this can only be seen in the extended cut. The 𝐶𝐸𝐻 then begins praying to 𝐴WA, something removed from the theatrical release. In the extended cut, this lasts longer. We see more of the 𝐶𝐸𝐻 praying, and Waynfleet intensifies the pressure to allow him to kill by urging 𝐿oak to say the word. Another director's note: we toned down the violence and intensity because we felt the film needed a better balance between the beauty and uplifting moments and the darkness. It's easy to see why. This scene paints a very grim picture of the recombinant brutality and of Spider's inner conflict. What are your thoughts on this scene? Were they right to tone down the violence and torture? Share in the comments below. Next, we have something bizarrely low-tech and probably the highest-tech movie of all time. How to block water reflections. There is a major technical challenge with underwater motion capture. The surface of the water reflects light, which confuses the infrared cameras that capture the actors' movements. Cameron's team solved this in a brilliantly basic way. They poured a layer of small white balls, about the size of ping pong balls, to create a 4 to 6 inch thick layer on the surface of the water. This ball pit cover broke up reflections and also acted as a light diffuser. When actors needed to surface, they could easily push through them. A similar solution had been used in 1989's The Abyss as well. with black beads used to create total darkness. For Way of Water, they used white balls to help light the primarily daytime scenes. This is a brilliant example of practical ingenuity. Rather than fixing everything digitally, they engineered a more camera-friendly filming environment. The floating balls allowed crystal-clear underwater capture of the actors' facial performances and motions. This trick shows the benefit of having a career's worth of experience to draw upon. Cameron riffing on one of his old innovations and upgrading it for Pandora. In an age of wall-to-wall CGI, it's refreshingly old school. Pandora's Free Willy. Jake's second son, Loak, befriends an outcast Tulkun named 𝐿, a giant whale-like creature, and their friendship becomes a major subplot. In the finale, the boy and whale duo team up, with 𝐿 decisively attacking the RDA ship to protect Loak and the Na'vi. There's a strong parallel with Free Willy, a story of a boy freeing an oppressed orca. The boy and his whale trope emphasizes themes of empathy across species and the intelligence of Pandora's creatures, giving Loak's arc a familiar feel while adding a new twist. The whale doesn't just get freed, he becomes a warrior ally. The Free Willy reference offers a lighter parallel, but the next secret talks about a dark parallel. A massive RDA ship and smaller submersibles orchestrate a brutal chase, trapping a Tulkun mother and calf. The hunters kill them and extract only a vial's worth of fluid from the adult's brain, leaving the rest of the enormous corpse to rot. This is an intentional allegory to the real-world exploitation of wildlife. It echoes how human colonizers and whalers slaughtered majestic animals for one profitable part, like killing whales for a few barrels of oil or hunting buffalo for hides, leaving most of the carcass unused. The film taps into that real-world atrocity to paint the RDA's actions as not just violent, but wasteful, immoral, and very upsetting. Very soon, we find out about Earth's quest for immortality. We learn that the substance extracted from Tulkun brains, known as 𝐉𝐸𝐷, halts human aging. The RDA crew mentions a single vial is worth billions as a result. This implies that back on Earth, the wealthy are seeking literal immortality. Meanwhile, Earth is dying, overpopulated and ravaged. The film doesn't explicitly spell out the connection, but context invites us to connect the dots. If rich humans can stop aging, population pressures and resource consumption would skyrocket. It's a dark extension of the film's critique of corporate greed. Not only will RDA strip Pandora of resources, they'll pervert the natural life-death cycle. It's a speculative angle, but it helps us understand why the RDA is obsessed with 𝐉𝐸𝐷. They're literally selling a chance to play God. The Tulkun Hunt Extended Cut. 𝐿𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐼 joins Scoresby and his crew on a Tulkun hunt. It opens with the hunters preparing to depart from the Sea Dragon in smaller boats. They follow the signal from a Tulkun tracker. The extended cut makes this a little longer, though there's nothing major added. As they close in on the pod, the team starts launching grenades into the water. Scoresby explains to 𝐿𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐼, in new information for us, that the blasts are designed to drive the Tulkuns to the surface as their ears are extremely sensitive to sound. Back aboard the Sea Dragon, Garvin tells Spider that the Tulkuns are lifting their echolocation sensors above the water to protect themselves from the noise. In the extended cut, Spider asks if it hurts, and Garvin replies, "It's agony for them." Meanwhile, the hunters push forward and begin activating their sound cannons. This part is slightly longer in the extended cut. Garvin then explains that the goal is to separate the calf from the rest of the pod since the young ones swim more slowly and the mother will never abandon her baby. Hearing this, Wainfleet mutters, "That is just wrong," though that line only appears in the extended cut. A soft side of the normally hard Wainfleet. We get extra footage of the hunters chasing the Tulkuns. As the attack continues, 𝐿𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐼 asks Scoresby whether the Tulkuns ever fight back, and Scoresby answers no. Now, in the theatrical cut, the scene ends when the sub-team attaches hooks to the body. But in the extended version, it continues and ends only after Scoresby returns to the harpoon gun and shoots the calf with it. A horrible moment. The director's note is the same as in the previous scene. They chose to tone down the violence and intensity to better balance the film's beauty with its darker moments. Even in its moderated form, the scene is very unsettling, so not including the rest feels like the right move to us. Showing Scoresby killing the calf after the mother dies changes the tone of the entire sequence. The only upside to keeping this in, it would have made it all the more satisfying when his arm comes flying off later in the movie. Which brings us neatly on to Scoresby and Garvin rescued. Deleted scene. This deleted scene unfolds in the middle of the main battle. After 𝐿𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐼 handcuffs Kiri, the focus shifts to the Tulkun hunting crew who are saving Scoresby. He's fallen into the sea and just lost the aforementioned arm in the chaos. The RDA men manage to pull him back onto the boat. Meanwhile, Garvin swims back to the vessel, assessing the situation as the crew scrambles to regain control. Scoresby was assumed dead in the theatrical cut, as we did not see him again. But now we know that he is likely still alive, and knowing James Cameron, we will be seeing more of this character in Fire and Ash. Perhaps the Tool-Kun will be able to exact a lasting revenge on him and Garvin. Real ocean tech and sci-fi skin. The design and function of the RDA's underwater fleet was created by blending real aquatic life with cutting-edge submersible technology. For instance, the crab sub's multi-legged design and mechanical claws mirror real remotely operated underwater vehicles used in ocean research. James Cameron, an obsessive deep-sea explorer, infused the design with influences from his real-world submersible experiences. For Cameron, it's a signature touch, and by making the tech look familiar, he blurs the line between speculative future and present reality, which makes Avatar's environmental warnings hit closer to home. Echoes of Titanic's sinking. In the climactic battle sequence, the Sea Dragon capsizes and begins to sink. The ship overturns and floods, leading to scenes reminiscent of Cameron's Titanic, roaring water pouring down corridors and stairwells, and our heroes navigating rising waters in confined spaces. Jake and Loak struggle for air in a submerged compartment, and Neytiri and Took nearly drown as water surges around them. The cinematography features half-submerged camera placement, a signature Titanic style. This is Cameron paying homage to himself. The parallel intensifies the climax by using visuals that are familiar and thrilling to many fans. Beyond the Easter egg aspect, these callbacks underscore the Way of Water's themes of love, sacrifice, and desperation in a sinking ship scenario, emotionally aligning Jake and Neytiri's fight for their children with Jack and Rose's fight for survival on the Titanic. The next secret references another ocean-based movie classic, Parents from Hell, extended cut. A huge scene now which only makes us more excited for Fire and Ash, if that is possible. This is during the climactic final battle, following Neteyam's death, when Jake is trying to save Kiri and Took from Quaritch. As the ship begins to sink, he pushes forward. Neytiri joins in. She tears through the wreckage, attacking all in her path. We get a brief new shot of Jake shooting one of the ship's crew members, which isn't shown in the theatrical cut. The fight continues, with Jake and Neytiri working together to take down Quaritch's men, and the extended cut adds another moment where Jake deploys the machine gun. Then comes an incredibly intense sequence where Neytiri faces the remaining enemies alone. She goes completely wild, filled with rage, and attacks every crew member she finds. The extended cut significantly intensifies this moment. We actually see her stabbing one man repeatedly. She then moves to another enemy who begs for mercy, but she ignores him and continues stabbing him over and over. This stands in sharp contrast to the theatrical version, where she stabs each person once and moves on. Quaritch has now taken Kiri hostage. This unfolds the same way in both versions. Jake surrenders his weapons, Spider interrupts, and Neytiri suddenly appears and seizes Spider. What we have seen before is Neytiri pressing a knife against Spider's throat. She doesn't even hesitate to slit Spider's chest. As she raises the blade to stab him, Quaritch panics and lets Kiri go. Now here's where things get interesting. In the extended version, she holds onto Spider and slowly brings the knife closer to his throat. Seeing this, Jake and Kiri plead with her to stop, but she's beyond reasoning. She hisses at them instead. Then her eyes lock on Quaritch's and she snarls, "A son for a son." Again, Jake tries to calm her, but Neytiri just repeats the same line, "A son for a son." Only after Jake's gentle persistence does she let him take the knife and free Spider. They then back away from Quaritch, just like in the theatrical cut. This scene would have made a significant difference on the final film, as it shows an incredibly raw, vengeful, and emotional side of Neytiri that we've rarely seen before. Her composure breaks as she's consumed by grief and anger after losing her son. Everything she does in this moment, her violent outburst, her rage, and even her willingness to take Spider hostage, comes from the unbearable pain of a mother's loss. Defetishizing the gunplay. The Way of Water features plenty of weapons and battles, but also a shift in James Cameron's sensibilities. The director cut around 10 minutes of gunplay from The Way of Water in order to get rid of some of the ugliness and avoid fetishizing guns, especially given real-world gun violence. It's a surprising stance from a director whose classics, like the Terminator films and Aliens, are packed with iconic shootouts, but Cameron claimed that his move to New Zealand, where firearms are far less common, has given him a new perspective on Hollywood's relationship with guns. That shines through in the final battle, which, though intense, relies more on bows, creatures, and hand-to-hand fighting. Staying on James Cameron, let's look at some of his self-homages. The legendary director sneaks in numerous and humorous references to his own earlier movies. Here are a few notable examples. Firstly, the RDA's dropship deployment on Pandora, year 2170, resembles a scaled-up version of the Colonial Marines' drop in Aliens. Secondly, Jake has turned his kids into a trained guerrilla unit, addressing him as Sir. This recalls how Sarah Connor trained young John, a hardened parent preparing children for war. Next up, we have Neytiri's ferocious mother warrior persona, which recalls both Ripley in Aliens and Sarah in T2. Cameron has always loved a mama bear character, and Neytiri, screaming in rage to protect her kids, slots neatly into that lineage. Another fun parallel is that he even had Ripley metaphorically adopt Newt in Aliens, and Neytiri literally adopts Kiri and Spider. Then there's the Way of Water's final hostage showdown with Quaritch and Neytiri holding each other's children at knife point, an echo of scenes in Aliens and T2. In the latter, Sarah nearly kills Miles Dyson in front of his family, and in Aliens, Ripley threatens the Queen's eggs to negotiate the release of Newt. This time round, the Mexican standoff between multiple parents and children feels like an ultimate Cameron culmination of those themes. Last but not least, even hardware gets a nod. The AMP suits, which feature heavily in the first movie too, are seemingly a direct descendant of the power loader from Aliens. All these self-references offer a wink to fans and link the Way of Water to a larger Cameron-verse where threads of colonization, fiercely protective parents, and the conflict between nature and technology keep resurfacing. Cameron is clearly honoring and one-upping his old work. Everything is bigger. The dropships, the destruction, the stakes, but the emotional core of family and survival stays the same. And those are the hidden stories behind Avatar: The Way of Water. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please give it a like, subscribe for more cinematic deep dives, and share it with a fellow Avatar fan. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.